Hey guys, AB here from B&H, and if you are a current RODECaster Pro owner or someone who's thinking about getting one for all of your podcasting needs, there are actually a few lesser-known features you should know about, such as the ability to take 3 remote phone calls at once, a broadcast meters mode, and more. Plus a soon-to-be-released firmware update with even more features, which I will talk about later. But before we get into that, let's take care of 2 things first. 1. Download the current RODECaster 2.1 firmware, which includes a lot of the features I'm about to talk about. And 2. Download the free RODECaster Pro companion app, which takes the RODECaster's functionality to another level by providing options like automatic loudness matching of your audio on setup when loading the sound pads, quick control of play settings, save and export functions that allow you to finalize your podcast before releasing it, and others. Producer mode. Under standard operation, the RODECaster Pro lets you have up to 7 people participate in a podcast. That's 4 via XLR mic inputs and 3 by way of remote calls using USB, TRRS, and Bluetooth. However, Rode created a producer mode that reserves 1 channel for the producer and has the other 6 dedicated to guests in your podcast. This enables the producer to speak with guests off air and prep them before bringing them into the podcast, and it works with both remote callers and local guests who are plugged into the mic inputs of the RODECaster Pro. To activate producer mode, you simply press the solo and mute buttons together on the host channel and do the same on any of the other channels you'd like to include in this mode. All the channels you've selected will turn yellow on the touchscreen, and everyone will be able to chat and hear each other, but none of that audio will be recorded to the podcast, nor will it be output from any of the RODECaster Pro's line outs. This is a great way to prep guests before a show starts or to chat privately with them between segments. Broadcast meters mode. When activated, Broadcast Meters mode displays all meters on the home screen with DBFS markings, making it easy to keep tabs on where your peaks are so you can establish appropriate recording levels in terms of mic inputs, remote audio from USB-C, TRRS, and Bluetooth connections, and the sound pads. To enable this function, press Settings, Advanced, Audio, Operations, Broadcast Meters. Granular control over all effects and processing. While it's great to be able to turn effects like compression and de-essing on and off, it's even better to have the ability to adjust parameters incrementally, and you can do this by going to the RODECaster Pro's menu and selecting Advanced Audio Processing. You'll see the Effects Edit mode at the bottom, and when enabled, you'll get fine-tuned control over the high-pass filter, noise gate, de-esser, compressor, Aphex Aural Exciter, and Aphex Big Bottom. You can also adjust these processors within Rode's companion app, which gives you even more control, visual aids, and histographs. Save/load shows. If you've created a podcast workflow that you would love to use every time you record a show, there's a save load shows function that will recall your setup precisely the way you saved it, including mic channel settings, sound pad assignments, and more. This means that you can save multiple setups for different shows and recall them quite easily. To do this, you'd open the Rode Companion app and go to File, Save Show to save your custom settings for the RODECaster Pro. Then, that saved file can be used with any RODECaster Pro and reloaded by going to File, Load Shows. This feature is particularly handy if multiple users are sharing the same RODECaster Pro for different podcasts. Keep in mind that this process requires the Rode Companion app because you can't currently save shows to the internal SD card in the RODECaster Pro. Save/load effects preset. If you've applied effects and processing to your show and you want to take a snapshot of that so that you can come back to it and work on it, or even take it to another RODECaster Pro to continue working, you can do that by going to the companion app and choosing Effects, Save Effects Preset. And a file specifically made for the RODECaster Pro will be created, which contains all the effects and processing data. You can reopen this file with all those effects on any RODECaster Pro via the companion app by going to the app and choosing Effects, Load Effects Preset. Export functions. Exporting your podcast can be done either manually or automatically using the companion app. The automatic selection optimizes your show with fixed settings that match the following platforms: Anchor, Spotify, Whooshka, iTunes, Himalaya, SoundCloud, Buzzsprout, Blueberry, and Libsyn. On the other hand, you can manually export your show by customizing settings such as file format, sample rate, bit rate, and loudness. Mix minus. A lot of you already know this, but mix minus is the technology that keeps phone calls from having those annoying echoes and feedback that you sometimes get when you are incorporating remote calls into your podcast. When placing a call via Bluetooth or TRRS, Mix Minus is already built into the RODECaster Pro. However, if you're connected to a USB device such as a laptop or a tablet, and you plan on making a call through apps like FaceTime, Skype, Google Hangouts, or whichever one you prefer, you're going to have to engage Mix Minus manually. First, make sure that the RODECaster Pro is selected as the audio source in your device. Then go to Advanced Audio, Processing, and engage Mix Minus at the top. Now your calls via USB should be clear and echo-free. Firmware version 2.1.2 Beta 1. As promised, I want to talk about firmware version 2.1.2 Beta 1, which is slated to be released by the end of the year. If you're a RODECaster Pro user who has been begging for MIDI control, then this firmware is going to be really good for you. The V2 update means that you're now going to be able to output MIDI commands for all physical functions. So not only will you be able to record all of your audio tracks pre-fader, but you'll also be able to record all your button presses and fader moves during the show, making your RODECaster Pro a control surface that can track automation in your favorite DAW during recording, as well as edit individual fader moves or other actions in post-production. This MIDI control works in reverse as well, meaning you'd be able to remotely control the unit via MIDI. This could be particularly handy for remote broadcasting, especially for radio stations that want to be able to provide a radio host with a RODECaster Pro, but control it remotely using MIDI control. Swear button. Let's face it, sometimes in podcasts, people swear, and you might want to beep that audio out. The new firmware adds a swear button mode to the sound pads, and when you press that assigned pad, it'll play a tone to mask any of the expletives for as long as the button is pressed. Upon release of the pad, the tone will stop and the entire audio from the podcast will resume as normal. ASIO, or ASIO, driver. Finally, for PC users who have had compatibility issues with the RODECaster Pro and their computers, the upcoming 2.1.2 firmware update will include an ASIO driver that will enable the RODECaster Pro to work seamlessly with any PC DAW or software that requires an ASIO driver, such as Nuendo or Cubase. Of course, the RODECaster Pro will remain Core Audio compliant, so for those of you who are using Macs, you're not going to have any issues. And that's it for my look at some of the RODECaster Pro's lesser-known functions, as well as the upcoming version 2.1.2 firmware update. For more information on the RODECaster Pro, check out our original hands-on review here, and go to bhphoto.com if you want to learn about other great gear by Rode. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Once again, this is AB from B&H, and I'll see you next time.